Hello, and a very warm welcome to this webinar on Wednesday lunchtime. Wednesday lunchtime, strange time of the week really. It's neither the beginning of the week nor the end of the week. It's literally right in the middle. So by the end of this webinar, we'll be nearer the weekend, which is good. So let's look at what we're going to focus on. Just before we do that, I'd just like to start by thanking PMO Flashmob as an organisation for giving us the opportunity of running some webinars to the membership, and particularly to Lindsay, who's facilitated that. So thank you very much, and to all of you from PMO Flashmob that are members of PMO Flashmob, thank you very much for coming on board, and I hope you enjoy the next 45 minutes or so. So just by way of introduction, my name is Rupert Taylor. I run a couple of businesses, both in the world of change projects and programs and portfolios. One of them is a software business, and you'll see elements of our software today, and the other is a change management business. So I spend a huge amount of my personal life with senior executives, and essentially the focus of my time with them is on how they can lead projects, programs, or just change generally more effectively. And they're an interesting species. The senior exec is pretty consistent from one organization to the next, but they think in a very different way, and they tend to operate in a very different way from one exec to the next. So what we're going to look at today is the chasm that currently sits between the executive and the PMO, and how you potentially bridge that chasm. So we're going to essentially go into in a bit more detail. We've done a bit of research. I'm sort of fascinated by the whole sort of space of how you get executives leading change more effectively. And we're going to have a look at some research that we did recently, which tries to get a little bit more under the skin of the challenge and what needs to be done in order to bridge the gap. In order to bridge the gap, the first sort of the starting place is, do we know how big the gap is, and do we know what it is, what the gap is, what the chasm is? So we're going to look at the problem. Why is it challenging for PMOs to align with executive requirements? We're going to look at some of that research, and I'll give you some insights that have come directly from execs and also from people that run PMOs or are involved in PMOs. A few insights into that chasm, that gap, and where it comes from. And probably the most fun part, we're going to have a look at some solutions that essentially help to address that. And hopefully give you a few ideas as to how you might deploy those sorts of concepts or solutions. And a lot of it is visual and visually engaging, but how you might deploy them in your own organizations. So we're going to get you involved as well. The polls you will see on your tabs for live stream for the webinar, you have got chat, questions, polls, and people. Under polls, we would like to get you involved and get you giving us some information, which all adds to the research. So if you can take the time to fill in the poll, that would be hugely appreciated. The first poll we've got today really looks at the platforms that we use to communicate with execs. So what I want to do is ask the question, so what best describes the way that you deliver your portfolio and your project reports to the executive team? What best describes the way you deliver your portfolio and project reports to your executive team? Is it PowerPoint and Excel? We have a PPM tool, but we transfer executive reports onto PowerPoint and Excel. We send reports directly from our PPM tool. Using their executive reporting module, they're totally used to getting reports directly from the PPM tool. We have a BI tool, or we have something else. So PowerPoint / Excel, we have a PPM tool, but we transfer our executive reports onto PowerPoint and Excel from that PPM tool. We send reports directly from our PPM tool, sort of the exec reporting module. We use a BI tool like Power BI or MicroStrategy or Business Objects, or we do something else. If you could just answer those questions, that would be great. and we'll see whether it is different to some of the research that we've done over the past sort of 2 or 3 months. So we've got results coming in, which is great. So thank you very much for that. At the moment, we are showing 87% of you either use PowerPoint and Excel, or you transfer from a PPM tool to PowerPoint and Excel. So the vast majority are ending up with the primary platform being PowerPoint and Excel, whether it's via a manual input or whether it is via a PPM tool. Completely consistent with what we see elsewhere. That is totally, in fact, that's consistent with what we see everywhere. So let's have a look at the situation in a bit more detail. So we conducted this research, and our primary objective was to explore the alignment between executive level requirements for project portfolio information, stroke insights, and the PMO reporting processes, their formats, and the principles of performing, of reporting. And we did a combination of online surveys. We've run some webinar polls. And we've had about 50 executive level participants and around 100 PMO specialists who have been involved. That would either be PMO leads or PMO support people who've actually taken part in the research. So it's not huge, but I think it's representative. There's enough of a sample there to be representative. So let's have a look at some of the outputs of that research. There is a chasm, and it is quite significant. What I think is interesting here, if we pick out just a couple of pieces of feedback from the research. So on the left-hand side, you've got your executive, and what they're saying is this particular executive is saying, I'm not getting the performance information in a format that I want. I'm not getting my insights in a format that I want, which is generally, as we've just looked at, PowerPoint. The PMOs are saying that they're struggling to engage the execs to the level that they would like. And just to sort of put some figures on that, so 97% of executives consider that obviously active involvement in tracking the performance and status of their portfolio projects is either extremely important or very important. No great surprise there, but only 15% feel well informed or feel extremely well informed about the status of their portfolio projects. Shift that across to the PMOs, and nearly 80% of PMOs polled believe that they're struggling to engage their execs with the portfolio reports they generate. So there's a lot of people who are saying, well, I produce these reports, but do they ever get read? Do they actually add any value? Am I getting any engagement from my execs in the way that I need to? And 22% of PMOs are saying that they're only 22% are saying that their senior execs are highly engaged by their reports. So we've got an issue. There is a problem and a challenge for us running portfolios and PMOs to try and tackle. The second one is more looking at the style that we operate in. So this was really interesting. So I think the first thing was, no great surprise here, 93% of executives said they want concise and visual information. They want it concise, they want it visual. And what they said was, I've got limited time, so I want to be able to read it in seconds. I want to get to the basic information in seconds. I haven't got weeks, I can't dig around looking for it. Conversely, the PMOs, 93% of execs wanted concise and visual information, and yet over 50% of the PMOs polled believed that providing more detailed reports would actually improve the level of engagement from the executives. So a complete disconnect really between how the executive is thinking and how the PMO people that we polled are thinking themselves about how to get reporting out there. So the gist of it is there is a challenge there for us to address as people that are running portfolios, PMOs, etc. So let's have a look at some solutions, and we'll go through them in some detail, and hopefully it'll give you a few ideas if these are the sort of problems that you face as to how you might tackle them. So what we heard was senior execs saying, I want concise and I want visual. And what we're looking at here is something that we call the V-bar. You'll notice that the room that I'm in here is called the bar. That's very purposefully called a bar because the branding of the project room actually is very important. It always slightly amuses me that so many project rooms are called war rooms. It's an interesting term for a zone that's supposed to be incredibly collaborative, very much about sort of working with people and engaging people and drawing people along with you. A war room doesn't really engender those feelings of collaboration and working together. So when we kick off, what we're looking at here is a project room, and we're looking at a project room that has got a whole load of visual information on the walls. And this is our equivalent of a war room, which we call a bar. Now, the reason we call it a bar is because we brand it as, when we start a program, we brand it as a boost activity. So we call it Boost Start. And the reason we do that is because 6 out of 10 executives, who are the people you really want to get engaged in the program, aren't that interested in program definition or a lot of the project terminology. What they are interested in is JFDI. I want it tomorrow. I want it fast. I want to accelerate. So we call it the bar, which is the boost activity room. And it's a bit of fun. It's a bit different, etc. So let's have a look around the bar. Firstly, this particular room, whether it's a physical room or an online room like this is branded. So I can look at, I can brand it sort of however I want, but I've got this picture of a full room and it's sort of branded in the colors of the business. Secondly, it's always clean, which helps. And a lot of the rooms that get allocated to project rooms are often at the bottom in the basement, at the bottom of the business, somewhere where people often don't go. And so this one is always clean. It always looks good. So it's sort of, therefore, by definition, it's inviting. And then if we have a look around the room, we'll go through a few of the artifacts to give you a sense of maybe a few ideas that you could use for engaging senior execs. So this room is very much designed to achieve executive level engagement. So the first thing, as an executive, I walk into the room like I am now, and I get the sense that this is quite a well thought through program. There's a lot of stuff on the wall, and it looks quite well organized. It looks like there's a structure to it, and it looks like it's actually quite interesting to have a look at, because it's not all text. A lot of it is visual. So the first thing I'm going to do is walk around the room, and I'm going to start at the beginning, and I'm going to articulate the vision of the program. So the vision of the program is articulated in a single sentence. It's not articulated in 5 paragraphs. And the reason for that is that people just won't read that volume of text. And certainly your senior execs, of whom 6 out of 10 are probably not interested in project methodology. If you want to get them involved and you want to get them engaged, you've got to be operating in their world and aligning with their characteristics, which is JFDI, do it faster, give me concise, give me visual. Excuse me. So we've also here, underneath the vision, we've then got this single picture of the program. So we've used a sort of visual overview, but it does enable us to see all the information that I want as an exec. At this stage, I can read this in 2 minutes. I can see what are our visions, what are our goals, what are the risks, the major risks that we've got. I've got a vague outline of my plan on a page. I don't need more than that. I don't need a 200-line project plan. I just want high-level milestones. When are they happening? What sort of structure is there? When's the plan? What does the plan look like? In this case, I've got an overview of my costs, and I've also got an overview of my benefits. So on one page, I've literally pretty much got everything I need to understand why we're doing this program and what we're expecting to achieve from it and when things are going to happen. You can go into a bit more detail here. There's a nice visual here, which is an infographic that starts to bring to life visually some of the key elements that we're going to be focusing on within this particular program. This program is a move of an office from central London through sort of out to somewhere outside London. So there's all sorts of benefits that we want to articulate, as well as just purely financial ones. So I'm sort of looking for ways of doing that are interesting and that people are going to buy into. You might want to have a think about, sometimes not just talking about the benefits of doing, the financial benefits or non-financial benefits, but you might also sometimes want to think about the consequences of not doing it. So visualizing a view as to if we don't do this, these are the consequences that we could be subjected to. We have a program at the moment we've been working on for some time, which is very much about mitigating risk. GDPR was a very good example of that. I'm sure lots of you have been running GDPR programs. There's not a huge amount of upside for the sales director, the marketing director, the COO, etc., in terms of additional customers, additional revenue, etc. This is all about mitigating risk, and it's harder to engage senior execs when you're looking at mitigating risk than it is when you are doing something that's going to generate more customers and help you achieve your targets. So we then look at scope. We see, you can visualize how you're prioritizing scope. So up here, we've got high risk and low value, which you probably wouldn't want to do, which is why it's in the red zone. Down here, you've got high value and low risk. So these are, good things to be doing, maybe as quick wins and getting them done. But it's a sort of visual presentation. Bringing the benefits to life, you can look at all sorts of ways of articulating benefits. But essentially, people want to know, certainly executives want to know in a very simple format, what is the benefit and when's it going to be realized? Or at least when it's going to be released, which we'll have a look at the moment. So benefits is actually an interesting one. If we go on to our executive reporting tool, one of the things that we when looking at benefits, one of the things that we look at is not just articulating what the benefit is and when it's forecast, etc., but also senior execs are generally interested in when is the benefit going to land. And as we all know, in the world of projects and portfolios, it's extremely difficult to pin down benefit realization, to actually assess how much benefit was realized against a project, a program, a work stream, or a milestone or set of milestones is extremely hard, primarily because there's other projects that a CFO or a finance director would argue have contributed to the achievement of an improvement in churn or an improvement in customer growth or whatever it might be. But what we can do is we can outline when benefits are going to be released. So here we have got a program and we've got in here the project plan for it, so we can see when things are happening. We can see when a key milestone has slipped, and we can also see a line of benefits and when they're due. And if I click on that benefit, I can see that this is a financial benefit. It's £2.7 million cost saving to allow the opportunity to streamline our data collection IT system. So it's probably a license reduction cost or whatever. But at least I can outline when benefits are released, and then downstream, you can start to have sessions with your finance director to actually evaluate how much was realized. So looking at benefit realization, let's go back to the V-bar. Looking at benefit realization, I think there's different ways of doing it, but you can visualize it. You can bring it to life and make it more interesting. So then we move into the whole area of plans and deliverables, and we've got a section here for plans and deliverables. So a good way to articulate milestones, I think, is get away from the Gantt chart, because 6 out of those 8 execs probably aren't going to be that interested. Some might be, but come up with a different way of outlining the flight path to success. In here, we've got several work streams. These are the key milestones and when they're happening. You can see it by date. And we've also got a line of benefits, so you can get a sense, an exec can get a sense of when those benefits are going to be realized. Equally, this is quite a nice visual. So if I actually just come around here, you don't get too seasick. So this is a different way, slightly more creative way of outlining the flight path. So we've got a starting point, sort of thing that it might be good to have up on the walls in the office or somewhere where people can engage with it. And they can see there's dates, there's different milestones that are happening. There are benefits outlined here, when the benefits are going to be realized. You can really start to get a sense of what the journey, the change journey, looks like. Now, if someone in the business can get a sense of what the journey looks like and what it means that isn't in the world of projects and programs, you are almost certainly going in the right direction. So that flight path becomes very important. So then we've got, we've got in here an overview of challenges and risks. So here we've got a risk heat map, which just again brings the storms are up here. This is where the big risks are. And that sort of draws my eye and draws my attention to, what I need to be focusing on far more potentially than a risk log, a RAID. Primarily because I've got to trawl through, there's quite a lot in there. That's more, for me, a program delivery tool. This is more of an executive engagement tool because it's operating at the right level to engage. So then we've got the comms plan. Comms is interesting. So here we've got an overview. We break down the comms by activity. And here we've got program, team, and company-wide. So we've got all the usual. We've got our governance structure in here for workstream meetings, program boards, steercos, etc. We've got the infamous town halls in here. And we've got a nice little schedule that, again, as an executive, I sort of get that. I can see it feels like this program is going to be well communicated. You might also want to have a think about, rather than doing a weekly flash report in an email, just make it something a little bit more edgy, a bit more interesting, concise, change the graphic each week or each month to represent the latest updates or the highlights. It's not difficult to create a template like this and just do your weekly flash report in here, PDF it, send it out, and hopefully you will get a much better engagement rate. We did this on a program a couple of years ago, a very big program. It was a global program, and the click rate to open this newsletter was absolutely enormous compared to flash reports that were happening on emails. So here we've got an example of a monthly report. So I'm a senior exec, and I sort of what I want is something really straightforward. I prefer to have it on my iPad because I am never going to log in to my PPM tool. It's probably a bit too complex. I don't know my way around it. So at best I will wait for someone to tell me what's going on, or I'll ask the question, or I'll wait for a pack. But actually, and this is where I want to sort of shift into the, how you close the chasm for between execs and the PMOs, by sort of aligning with the way they think and they operate, and the way execs would like to receive or like to receive information. So let's just quickly look at a few of those ideas. So the first one is I'm one of the execs, and I don't want you to just give me a standard pack. I want to see what I want to see. I'm not interested in everything in the portfolio. So I'm interested in my projects. I want to see what I want to see because I'm the CIO. The CMO wants to see something completely different. The CEO wants to see something completely different. So I need that ability to tailor those views and look at the projects I'm interested in a way that is different to anybody else. So in this one, I've just gone to the CIO's monthly pack. The CIO wants to have that commentary as to what's been going on, what's planned for next week. They also want some metrics that they're tracking that relate to this particular project. They are interested in escalated risks and issues, the finances, the benefits, and they want a high-level project plan. So, the CIO wants that level of detail. If I come back out of here, this is obviously very difficult to do if you're using PowerPoint. So I recognize for the 90% of you that are using PowerPoint, it's extremely difficult to tailor your views. But if I'm the CMO, I've got a completely different set of requirements. So these are the projects I'm interested in, which are much more to do with marketing, incentives, there's a store opening. These are all marketing projects. I want to see what I want to see. I only need to see these projects here. When I see that Apollo, which is one of my projects, is red, I want to see the next level of commentary from the regular report. But I don't want to be given a standard pack. I want to be able to tailor my view so that I can see what I'm interested in. So that's the sort of principle of being able to customize the views and create views that your execs essentially can engage with because it's giving them the information they want. The other thing that they tend to want is tell me what I need to know. Tell me what I need to worry about. I don't have time to trawl through everything. So if you can tell me what I need to worry about, then that's going to be a major help for me. So if I'm the program manager or the portfolio manager and I've got a risk up here, which is something that the chief exec needs to know about, I can create an alert here, put that risk in. There is a risk at the Apollo chain board. Apollo risk alert, and I can send that to the chief executive, and so there we go. Send that to the chief exec, Ben Newman, and he will now get an email that simply warns him that there is a problem and invites him to click a link which is below the email, and he goes straight into here. Doesn't need to log in. It'll be available for a short period of time, maybe 2 days, but he can go straight into where that risk is. He can see the mitigation. He can look at what's been happening. He's got all of that drill through in one place, and if he wants to go to the history of all previous reports, he can look at that history along this carousel. So the point is, I'm the chief executive. I haven't got time to go through lots of detailed reports. I need to know what I need to worry about, and I also want to view the views that I'm interested in. I want to see the projects and programs that I've got a specific interest in. The third thing is, after having told me what I need to worry about, is I want you to give me concise and visual. So by concise and visual, what we mean is there's various dashboards here. So if I use visual as an example, I want to have a nice visual overview that I can engage with. So I'm interested in risks. and I'm also interested in issues. We've got 27 risks, but we've got 2 risks on red programs. So I sort of want to go to that next level. This risk doesn't have a mitigation. I'm now going to go into the program. I want that ability to drill to the next level. And I can see here that this risk doesn't have a mitigation. There is no commentary against it. I'm now going to ask a question, but within seconds, I've got what I want. And so I'm able to sort of navigate my way around. Same with program phases. I'm sort of interested in what we've got in delivery at the moment. So if I go into that, I can see there are 4 or 5 programs in delivery. They're not in great shape, which is not very exciting, but at least I can then drill in and I can see what the problem is, or I can at least identify what I want to ask. And if I want to go into the detailed project plan, I could do that. So it's visual, it's engaging, and it is essentially giving me the information that I need. I also might want to have a visual projector view. So my monthly meeting, number one, I always want to have the same view. So let me just put that up a little bit. So I'm here, this is primarily visual. I've got my finance. I've got my finance sort of waterfall view. I've got a historical view. These, I can see which milestones we need to talk about in the meeting. I've got the previous RAG and the current RAG, and I've got some commentary, but it's light enough that it's not very texty, which is what I want. I want to be able to see the project plan, the level 1 project plan, and I've got that, and I can use that in my meeting. I want to see those top risks and issues so I can go through that, and I'm delighted for you to tell me what you need from me. So any decisions you need taking or asks. And I've got a view of resources so I can see whether what the demand looks like on our resources. And that sort of does it for me, but I want every project in my meeting to be that visual. I want it to look that visual when I run my meeting. So I'm always looking at the same consistent view without a PMO having to spend huge amounts of time creating and formatting those views. So yeah, visual, engaging. The more engaging you can make it, the more I'm likely to get involved. The more engaging you can make it, the better the decisions I'm likely to make. And almost certainly, in fact, I can tell you from experience, the more engaging you make it, the better the perception you will generate from the PMO to the execs, because they will feel like you're offering them and delivering them value, which is key. So we've got our VBAR. We've got a different way of identifying whether you use a physical room and whether you create these artifacts using PowerPoint or whatever. There's maybe there's a few ideas there as to how you can present different information and make it look a bit more engaging, make it more simple to digest than a deep program charter, which you probably need to do, and you also need to do a PID. But it's a bit like an iceberg. The program charter and the PIDs that are 10, 15 pages long, full of text, can sit under the surface. They're absolutely necessary. They need to be there. But the bit that's above the surface is the bit that's visible. And that's the bit that a good PMO, I think, will be able to surface really good visuals that are just the tip of the iceberg, because that's all the execs need. So we've looked at some visuals in the VBAR in the online project room. We've looked at some visuals in Perform, which is an automated exec ready tool for delivering project insights and information across portfolios to the execs, to their iPads. I just want to run one more poll before we get into some Q&A, because I'd be delighted to answer any questions I can around the challenges that you're facing and how you try to engage with your execs and get them on board. So before we do that, second poll I'd like to run, and the last poll is, you've seen some different ways of doing things, a few concise and visual ideas, etc. But if you were to take one action to improve the alignment between executive requirements and your PMO outputs, which would you do first? Which would you prioritize? Would it be more concise and visual portfolio and project artifacts, reporting, etc.? Would it be to improve the executive level accessibility to current and historical reports anytime, anywhere? So iPad, smartphone, however, just give them very simple access. Would it be enable more customized views based on requirements of each executive member? Or would it be something else? So if you can place your votes, that would be hugely appreciated. The votes are coming in, and we've got 60, here we go, 83% are going concise and visual, which is brilliant. 2% more customized views based on requirements, but far more deliverable and far more achievable in the short term. We've got 83% still, 20 votes for more concise and visual project reporting. And actually, I think that's brilliant. It's just not that difficult to bring project reports to life. It's not that challenging. It's absolutely achievable. It doesn't need to cost a lot of money, and it can make a huge difference to the level of engagement you get from your executives, and also to the perception that is formed of the value of the PMO outputs, which is often questioned. So that's brilliant. So what I'm going to suggest now is that we look at, just to summarize. So in terms of closing the chasm, closing the chasm is achievable, and it's achievable now. You can do an awful lot to make a big difference to the way that your execs engage with your portfolio or your program. So boost engagement with simple reporting techniques. You don't have to have an online project room. Nice as it is, you can do all sorts of things yourself. So keep information concise. Permanently ask yourself the question, have I articulated the message at an executive level in a way that is concise enough that they're going to engage with it, they're going to read it? Be visual. Just do as much as you can to transfer text into visuals, because it is a specific species, the executive team, and they tend to very much operate around visual engagement and visual comms. They don't have time to read. Make reports and history accessible. So if they want to get to the detail, make sure it's easy to get there. One touch through a browser, just try and make it really simple for them to get to where they want to get to, because that will give you much better engagement. And where you possibly can, tailor views to individual needs. And I know that's hard because you probably need to have, in fact, you almost certainly need to have some form of automated tool like Perform, or there's other PPMs out there. But if you can achieve that tailored view, I'm only interested in 5 of the 25 programs in the business at the moment. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see everything else. I'm not interested. I want to be able to tailor what I want to be able to see. Much more engaging. So, with that in mind, we're now going to go into a session of Q&A. So on your polls, on your live stream, you've got a questions tab. If you click that, go in and write your questions. I will do my best to answer those questions. Based on previous experience, quite a lot of the questions tend to focus around the visualization. So I'm going to answer some of the questions we've got here. So we've got a question here from Steph. Will this webinar be available as a recording? There is so much great stuff here. I really want to listen again. Oh my God, you're flattering me far too much. That's incredibly exciting. Of course, the webinar will be available, and you can have a look around, take your time, put it in slow motion, go round to the visuals, go around the different visuals and come up with different ideas. You're also very welcome to find me on my LinkedIn profile, and if you want to ask me questions about how you're trying to visualize something, I will always do my best to answer direct and give you some ideas. And if I've got any templates in our business that I think would do the job, then we'll try and help you. Helen, what tools have you used to create the visuals, please? So we have our own software company, which is called Kivue. Kivue Limited is a software business, and we have developed the software here, which is called the V-Bar. So this is our own tool. And we've also developed the software here, which is Perform, which is our portfolio management tool, which either sits independently and works very simply for medium to large businesses that don't have an existing PPM tool, or it bolts into an existing enterprise PPM tool like Clarity or PlanView or whichever it might be. There's lots of them out there. And it presents that sort of front end, really simple, easy executive level view. And we've got some great case studies of both individual and where it's bolted in. So if you want to talk about these tools, you're more than welcome to get hold of me, and I will tell you more. Graham, could you tell us which PPM tool you're using? Yes, you're asking all the right questions. This is fantastic. This is a PPM tool which is called Perform. It's a tool that we created, we've developed, and we continue to develop, and it is all geared around getting the input manageable and easy enough that it's workable by people who are both project management trained and non-project management trained, because it tends to be that there's plenty of people in an organization that haven't been on the Prince 2 course that have got to fill in reports, and so it has to be easy enough for them. It has to be straightforward enough for everybody to use, and the outputs have got to be compelling. It's got to work. So Perform is the PPM tool that we're using, and it's our PPM tool that belongs to the business that I co-founded called Kivue. Nuala, if you were to prioritize one thing to make the biggest difference quickly, what would it be? Okay, so if I was to prioritize, as I say, I spend a huge amount of my life with senior execs. That's what I specialize in. And most of those senior execs are not interested in project and program methodology. They just aren't. So if it was me, the first thing I would do is I would sit down with those senior execs and say, what's the service you need from us? How can we give you a better service than we're providing at the moment? And they might say, give me less, give me more visual, keep it simple, but they will give you a view of what they want. And I would focus on some really good, simple visuals that outline some of the journey so far. So if you're running a program, I would do something like this, but make it your own, create it in your own colors, in your own brand, make it sort of compelling, because this is the sort of artifact that people get. It's a project on a plan project on a page is not all about the plan. There's other elements to it. So I would do that. I would also analyze your key stakeholders. Get into a bar like this, one of your rooms, get a flip chart, write down all your key stakeholders. There's probably 5 or 6 of them in the executive room, and work through what are their characteristics, what are the objectives that they're trying to achieve, what do they like, what do they not like. Some people don't like having a weekly report. They'd prefer to have a 20-minute chat over a coffee. Get all of that worked out first, so you know who your audience is and how you're trying to approach them, and then go about coming up with the artifacts that sort of feed their desires, and you will make them very, very happy very quickly. So it doesn't need to be complicated. Christine, what is your full name so I can search for you on LinkedIn? My full name is Rupert Taylor, and in fact I can probably, I know we've got the LinkedIn profile here. I think it's on the main thing actually. So yeah, my full name is Rupert Taylor. There's this rather strange picture of me here, and it relates to Kivue and Pro4 Solutions Limited. So yeah, that's my name. Do get hold of me, ping me a request, and I will say hi. David Dunning, this feels bottom up from the projects. Can I create line of sight from business risk, stroke opportunity, external imperative, business goal, board stuff to the enabling projects to deliver against them, and also stir in innovation ideas? You could definitely stir in innovation ideas. There's a whole load of things you can do around innovation. This is so perform as a tool is so it's interesting. It is bottom up in that you have to get the information in. So and the way you get the information in is from the project teams, but it is very much designed top down. It is a PPM tool that we've designed from the perspective of the exec, what they want, what they don't want, how they operate, how they think. We haven't designed it bottom up. Of course, the data's got to go in from the bottom because you've got a project, it's got work streams. Each of those work streams needs to fill in a weekly report. But we've targeted filling in a weekly or a monthly report in 15 to 20 minutes. That is it. Once it's done, there should be nothing else to do because everything else populates automatically. So you can run your meetings directly off the system. There's no PowerPoint. You can get rid of your Excel, certainly for things like the risk, your raids. We've got all of this, and then essentially what you're doing is you're pulling through information to the executive level by starring it. So I've got a bunch of risks. The ones that are starred are the ones that will pull through to my dashboard and be presented at an executive level. But our assumption in designing Perform is that there's only certain things that an executive wants to work with. They want to see certain dashboards, and that's why they can tailor their views, and they've got these dashboards to work with. Does it integrate with MSP or Excel? So in some areas of the system, you can upload from Excel. So one of the things that we have here is a resourcing module that shows you capacity versus demand. And this is essentially uploading from an Excel spreadsheet. And I can look at my different roles and see essentially what my demand versus capacity looks like. But just remember, the way this has been designed is very our design principles have been, it's got to be easy enough for people to populate that are not project trained people, because as well as project trained people, because in most organizations, at least 30% of the people running activities are just normal operational people. Does it integrate with MSP? Not at the moment, but we are looking at the moment of the option of integrating with MSP. However, what I would say is this is essentially where so at the moment what you do is you have the ability to create a document link to your full project plan, which might be an MSP or wherever it is. And then what you're populating in here is your top 10, 15 milestones. And once they're in, that's it. They only got to be put in once, and then they're just being reported on. So it's relatively straightforward, but we are looking at the potential for an integration with Microsoft Project so that you can pull level 1 milestones through straight from Microsoft Project. So we had some fantastic questions here. Let me just take a couple more if you've got time. So Helen, thank you. What about tools used to create the roadmap and benefits picture? So the roadmap and benefits picture, I presume you're referring to this one here. This is it's less a tool, it's more a visual. So, you would create a template. And what we find is that we tend to create a new visual for every program because they have different characteristics. And if you're going to engage a senior exec, you need to make sure that the characteristics of your visual suit the program. So if it's an IT program, it might be about, the visual might be about IT and or have an IT element to it. If you have an automotive business, you might have a road like this, but if you have a travel business, it might be flights, or it might be holidays, or it might be, underground stations where milestones represent each station and each line is a work stream. There's all sorts of different ways that you can do that. But, the innovation really is in the thinking and the developing of the concept. And then the important thing then is keeping it simple and making sure that what you articulate in the artifact is relatively straightforward and is at the executive level. Remember again, get into the executive's feet and shoes. So if can't see any other questions at the moment, if there's no other questions, I think I've used up my time. I am hugely grateful for you all coming on board and spending your Wednesday lunchtime with me in the bar. It's always good to come to the bar at lunch. We have got some snippet videos that I'm doing of little snippets of information, normally no more than 4 minutes, that I call bar chat. And it's those snippet videos are going to be coming out once a week. And it's basically where I have come across a specific situation and I give some context to the situation, and I give an idea, a snippet of thought leadership around how you might tackle those problems. They tend to be problems we're all facing. I would like to thank very much indeed Lindsay and the team at PMO Flashmob. I'm hugely grateful to all of you PMO Flashmob members for coming on board. And if you want to get hold of me, you're very welcome to do so. And there will be a copy of this video afterwards if you want to look at some of the visuals and try and see if you can recreate them yourselves. All the very best of luck. Have a great end of the week. And thank you very much for attending. See you.